Welcome to another season of Conversations with Gentle Warriors. This is season 5. My name is Bhavana Issar, and I'm the founder and CEO of Caregiver Saathi. In this season, we continue to shine the light on what we now call the invisible backbone of our society, family caregivers. Often, our strength as caregivers goes unseen, yet it forms the foundation of the well being for our loved ones and even communities. Through these conversations, we explore stories of courage, resilience, and quiet compassion. We'll hear about the challenges caregivers face, the systemic gaps that need attention, and the extraordinary ways in which caregiving shapes not just families, but workplaces and society. Gentle Warriors is not just about telling stories, it is about recognizing caregiving as an act of profound strength and about sparking reflection, dialogue, and change. Care is at the very core of our being. Join us as we celebrate these unseen, unheard, invisible heroes and uncover what it truly means to be a gentle warrior.
right?
I'm going to
Which
ask
she
you to
has.
take a pause,
Huh,
Sudha,
sorry.
because for the listener, greetings of the day. Welcome to yet another conversation with Gentle Warriors. At Caregiver Saathi, it has been our purpose and our quest to shine the light on people who have had journeys of caregiving, caring, and we fondly refer to them as gentle warriors. I should say we refer to ourselves as gentle warriors. I identify as a caregiver. It took me a very long time to embrace this identity. But as someone who has seen, valued, respected caregivers around me and has founded Caregiver Saathi, I feel that these gentle warriors, each one, when they share their stories, they shine the light on not just their own experience, but on so many of us and in how we see ourselves over time. So I'm particularly delighted today to have with us Najwa and for us to exchange our stories, maybe listen into her and see what is evoked as we go through her journey. Welcome, Najwa.
Hi, Bhavna. Nice to be here. Thank you for doing the work that you do.
So, Najwa, what would you tell us about yourself, who you
Mhm.
are, and your story thus far?
Sure. So I am a social impact professional. I've been also an educator. So I started out actually in finance, interestingly, in the
Oh,
corporate
wow.
space. Yeah, I know we've not spoken about that. Did not like that at all. And I decided I needed to pivot, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, what direction I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go in. So I quit my job in finance, which was a dream job of mine before I started it. Um,
Mm,
around that time, my mom fell sick, and so decided to take a break and figure out
mm,
what I wanted to do while also taking care of her, which was going to take a lot of my time. I think in hindsight, that was a good decision. I know at that point, because I
mm,
was 21, very young, starting out my career. I remember people around me telling me that taking a career break might be disastrous,
mm,
which was valid. I think everyone at 21 is just very anxious about what we're going to do with our lives, where we're going to go, and how the beginning of our career can kind of make or break it.
mm,
But I took that break, spent a lot of time in hospitals, which meant that I saw what the reality of Indian healthcare was, how accessible it was for some of us, but not so accessible for so many others. The disparities were very obvious when you go on a day-to-day basis because you have nothing to do, right? You spend so much time there. You
mm,
start just noticing people, noticing things. And I
mm,
realized that at that point that maybe I wanted to do something that bridges systemic inequities, but I still wasn't too clear on how to go about it. So while I was doing that, came across this opportunity to volunteer as a teacher at an
mhm,
after-school program in a nonprofit. And I took that up because it was only on weekends, which meant my sister was going to be home and I would not have to worry about my mom being without someone to take care of her. So I started volunteering as a teacher and I loved it, which was such a shock because for the longest time, my parents kept asking me about if I would ever be interested in teaching as a profession. I said no. I was a horrible, I wouldn't say I was a horrible student. I did cause problems for people in school. So I was a troublemaker and I was so worried that I would end up with a bunch of troublemakers who would make my life hell. Um, but I actually loved it so much that I decided to do it full time for a few years. That's kind of how I
mm,
got into the social impact space. I started at a nonprofit called Teach for India, teaching full time there for 2 years in a public school in Chennai. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. I've just been in social impact, international development, and education for a decade now. Yeah, 10 years now. So yeah. And yeah, currently I work as director of programs and learning at an education startup based out of Kochi. So I travel a lot between Kochi, Chennai, Abu Dhabi, where I currently am. And yeah, I
Mm,
enjoy the work I do, I guess.
mm,
Uh, yeah,
mm.
that's about me.
Thank you. And young experience of intense caregiving
Yeah.
can leave many, many marks. Are you okay to tell us a little more
Yeah.
about what is it that your mom was navigating?
Yeah, sure. She was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, we're just like, I think the initial diagnosis is obviously scary for everyone because you
Mm,
don't know what the outcomes are going to be. You don't know what the treatment plan is going to be. So you're obviously very worried, rightfully so.
mm,
So, which is why I decided to take a pause. I remember being in the hospital and making that decision because I was trying to run
mm,
a startup at that point, and I decided, okay, I'm just shutting shop. We're not doing anything. This is going to take my full attention. And yeah, I decided to just be home with her for a year through all of the treatment plans, figuring things out. Also
mm,
realized fairly early that my family is very sensitive, extremely emotional, and so one of us had to be the less emotional one, which was easy for
mm,
me because I've never been someone that's very comfortable expressing emotions around my family or in
mm,
general. So I've always bottled up emotions. So it came fairly easy to me to be the person that steps up and says, I'm comfortable doing this. I think it was also because I have a twin sister and she was in her final year of medical school. So I knew she also would not have the bandwidth. And my dad works in Abu Dhabi. We were in Chennai when all of this was going on. So
mm,
it just made more sense for me to take on that role at that point. Yeah, I don't think I've ever uh, seen it as a role or a responsibility. It just, like I said, it's just something you decide to do. If someone's sick, you decide to just do it because that's what you do in South Asian, Indian, I mean, I guess broader Asian communities as well.
mm,
We take care of each other. We are a very communal society where we look after each other, not a very individualistic society, which meant none of this came as it never felt like I was making a choice. It also did not feel like someone was enforcing that upon me. It just felt like the most natural thing to do, which in hindsight is a little uh, maybe problematic. I think we all, I think just the way we function, there are pros and cons to it as a society. We do
mm,
look out for each other, but also truly at what cost? When do we
mm,
realize that we are getting burnt out? We are not setting boundaries. We're exhausting ourselves. We're not able to
mm,
process emotions. All of that, I don't think we see that when we decide to take on these responsibilities
mm.
that don't feel like responsibilities when we take them on. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's doing better now, but it's
Mm,
also been a lot of ups and downs throughout this entire uh, a decade now. So she's had a
mm,
lot of relapses. We've had drugs that have worked, drugs that have not worked, um, COVID and being stuck at home and being worried about
mm,
infection because you also don't know how COVID is going to impact all of these things. So it was a lot
mm,
of the entire journey has just been a lot of learning, a lot of figuring
mm,
things out as we go.
mm,
Um, the one upside to that is that is how I approach life now. Take things as we come, figure out things as we go. So I think that's been helpful.
mm. Yeah. I I'm very curious about the day the prognosis or the diagnosis was shared. Can you look
Yeah.
at that scene, the players in that scene?
Yeah.
And how do you reflect on that starting point?
Hmm. I don't think too much about it just because it's been so long. Uh,
Mm,
but I remember it very vividly. So my parents are generally very health conscious in how they
mm,
eat,
mm,
what they eat. I think very similar to what you mentioned about your dad and how
mm,
he's fit. That's how I viewed my parents in their 40s,
mm,
very fit.
mm,
Um, that's like the diet we eat. Like I think we've been joked, like my school classmates used to joke about how I was eating rabbit food for lunch every day. Was it was always vegetables, no carbs. Uh, so they were fairly fit,
yeah.
and there were also people who were very aware of what they needed to do to take care of themselves, the tests they need to do once they cross 40. So they were very punctual with their annual health checkups. They would do one biannually as well.
Mm,
So it came as a surprise because my mom had done her annual health checkup just 6 months prior and everything came clean. So this was not expected. Um, it was also mammo is usually a part of the full body checkup, right? And
mm.
so that had happened, and that one came clean.
Wow.
And we did that in Abu Dhabi. And usually, what happens in Abu Dhabi is when your health reports are ready, they get back to you. And if anything is wrong, they will actually call you and say, hey, maybe you need to follow up on this particular thing. Uh,
Mm,
so we didn't get a call. So I think we also assumed that everything was clean, which it was at that point. But
mm,
if you look more closely at the reports, there was one thing that said, hey, do a follow up in 6 months, do a follow up mammogram in 6 months,
oh,
which,
really?
yeah, which at that point was not a problem. It just was one of those, it could become a problem. So look it up in 6 months. And 6 months later, lo and behold, my mom felt a tiny lump and she decided to just get it checked. She didn't think too much of it because 6 months back it was clean. And we lived near a medical hospital because my sister
Mm,
was near a hospital, medical college hospital, because my sister was studying there. So went
mm,
and got it checked, and the doctor was like, "Hey, see, it should be nothing, but just for safety's sake, why don't you go to a larger hospital in the city and get it checked?" And even then, we're like, "Yeah, cool, whatever." So the doctor who did the ultrasound was just like, out of caution, she just wanted to do a biopsy as well the very same day. And we're like, okay, everything's gonna be fine. Like we went in not expecting anything. So we go back a couple of days later to pick up the reports. My mom, my sister, and I went with our driver at that point.
mm,
And we went in to see the doctor, and the doctor was like, the reports are not with me. You need to go pick it up from the lab. And my sister and I, we sprinted to the lab. Uh, in your early 20s, you have a lot of energy. I wish I had that now. But you go sprinted, picked it up. And my sister was at that point in her fifth year of medical school. So she understood fairly well how to read reports, understood medical reports fairly well. And I would also read her books because I was bored. So I also had some fair idea of just how to make sense of those things. So even before we went to see our mom, we just stood at the lab where they printed and folded it, put in an envelope, and I was just getting so annoyed with the lady who was folding it and putting it in an envelope. I'm like, why? I'm standing right here. Just give me the piece of paper. But I guess protocol. So the minute she handed it, we opened it right there. I remember us talking about should we do this now or should we go to the doctor and ask her to read the
mm,
report for us? Because I think there was just some anxiety about what it could be.
mm, mm,
But we just chose to do it anyway. We read it,
mm,
and it was not what we were expecting at all. We just thought it was going to come
mm,
clean, but it was not. So it came as a huge shock.
mm,
Decided to take it to mom, and I'm not someone, I struggle to, as much as I don't express emotions out loud, uh, if something's bothering me, you can see it on my face. Like I can never hide the emotions on my face. So I remember going there and my mom's just like, you look ashen. Did you see the report? What is it? And I was like, I don't know what's up. I have not seen the report. We're gonna ask the doctor to see it. We did lie because we didn't want to be the ones um,
mm,
to I guess we both were not sure how to talk about it as well.
mm,
So we got the doctor to talk about it.
Mm,
Yeah. So that happened, and I remember the doctor saying, "Hey, this is nothing to worry about. It's early stage. It's going to be fine."
mm,
So it still does not soothe your fears because you hear people
mm,
say that all the time. So
mm,
yeah, I guess there was a lot of fear attached to it.
mm,
Um, I don't think I at that point also expressed any emotions around my family. I stepped out, cried for maybe 10 seconds, wiped out my wiped down my tears, and then went back in and just pretended everything was fine. Guess I've been ever since then. It's just been straight face. Yeah, it's easy. It's easier that way. It's easier that way because if you show emotions, I feel like it slows you down from what you can be actually doing. So bottle it up and unpack it at a later point when you don't have to worry about what needs to be done. Yeah, that's kind of how I approach emotions. Not healthy, but it works. Yeah,
I might have the name Bhavna, but I really struggle with emotions. You know,
you do as
well, it's improved over the years,
well. Mhm.
but I definitely relate with. I don't think I even think that I struggle with emotions. I thought it was a very smart thing to be stoic, right? Uh,
Yeah,
it was, yeah, it was so cool and so mature and so right. And elder daughters are the epitome of that, right? So,
yeah,
um, and I'm very struck by the fact that there were such regular medical checkups, and
yeah.
there is so much right now in terms of cancer prevention that the only thing that one can do is detect it
Yeah.
ahead and know it sooner than later. And that's the best news that one can give. Uh, in fact, there is this lovely oncologist in Columbia University, Dr. Azra Raza. I wonder if you've heard of him. Her, sorry.
Yes, she writes a lot on cancer
Yeah,
care. Yes,
yeah.
yeah. I've been
She's
reading her
written this
work a lot
incredible
recently.
book, The
Yeah,
First Cell.
yeah.
And I am particularly fond of her also because she sprinkles her not just sprinkles, she leads her conversation with Urdu poetry, which is very close to my heart. And
Hmm.
um, I like the passion with which she leads her life. Uh, and there is huge intersection in her being a caregiver herself.
Yeah,
Uh, Not just professionally, but also personally.
yeah.
So she says repeatedly that uh, cancer cure has not progressed over the decades. We still do the same things that we did decades ago. So
Hmm.
the best thing that we can do with the advancement of technology is to detect it early. So I'm so glad that your parents were disciplined enough to do their regular checkups. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's very important that the communication. So, what was your experience of how the news was broken to her and to you?
To us, it was not broken. It was,
Mm-hmm.
well, we sort of forced it open by ourselves. So we
Mm-hmm.
didn't have someone communicate it in maybe in ways that a medical professional normally would to someone with a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
But so this one is a little blurry, but I remember her telling my mom there was nothing to worry about, and it was just very early stage, and the lump was
Mm.
too small. So she also, I remember her talking through the entire treatment plan, which
Mm.
obviously can vary. The initial diagnosis is not 100% accurate in terms of
Mm.
because You just know whether the biopsy comes back positive or not. Uh,
Mm.
but you don't know how systemic the disease is and what else. Like, so there's a whole lot of assessments that need to happen before
Mm.
you can decide on the treatment plan. So while biopsy is just the initial diagnosis, the treatment plan is usually based on multiple scans, a few other things,
Yeah.
blood tests. And so based on that, they decide, and a few more advanced biopsies that determine the type of cancer. I think there are different variations even in breast cancer. So just figuring out
Yeah.
what type it is, each of them have their own different treatment plans. So all of that, it's a longer process. Like the initial diagnosis is just is the easier part. Um,
Mm.
Not that it's easy, but everything that follows just gets more complicated in terms of even trying to process what needs to happen. I guess which is where the whole not having, not expressing emotions really came in handy because just processing just that amount of new information, medical terminology, um, it was easier for us than it might have been for many people because my sister was a medical professional.
Mm.
So we had someone um, explain to us in normal human language, in English, and not in medical lingo. So that was definitely helpful. We also have a lot of family doctors in the family, so we did feel very supported throughout it. So there were perks to it, like also acknowledging the level of privilege we had and being able to access all of these things without worrying about how expensive these treatments could be, how expensive diagnosis also is. Diagnosis is crazy expensive as well. And
Mm.
so being able to do that, having health insurance is such a huge perk, which I didn't realize was a perk until all of this started. But yeah, just the initial part was, yeah, I guess that's how the doctor broke it down, which is that you don't have to worry about anything. But as every other um, scared patient would, we had multiple opinions from different doctors, took in multiple opinions, spoke to different people. My parents' primary base is actually UAE, is Abu Dhabi, not India, because they've been here for the last 30 years. We were in Chennai only because my sister and I were in college at that point. So, excuse me, we flew here and got an opinion from here, but we finally decided to just continue treatment in India because it was a more familiar space. And my sister, being a medical student, there was just easier for us to navigate the system there. Yeah, that's kind of how the whole initial diagnosis happened, how the news was broken. I do think doctors are taught a fair bit of empathy in communication and how they can break these things. So, at least the ones we've had have been fairly nice. We've also had some not so nice ones who
Mm.
I remember was like, "Oh, you can't have any high hopes." Uh, to me, as a 21-year-old, was that was not nice to hear. But we've had doctors like that as well. But most of them are, for the most part, very empathetic, very kind and soft, and communicate in ways that don't terrify you, make you feel more
Mm.
optimistic. So
Mm.
it was, yeah, I guess that helped. Having that kind of communication definitely helped.
Mm. So that day, without your consent, you became a
Yeah,
gentle warrior.
you could say that. Yeah, I don't think we ever spoke about who was going to do what,
Mm.
um, but I decided I was just going to do it because medical school was not going to wait for my sister.
Mm.
Um, And I know my dad, so my dad's office covered health insurance. So clearly, the reasonable, logical thing to do was for me to take care of her. My sister did
Mm.
definitely support a lot throughout,
So,
but she had her own thing going on, a very busy
mm.
year for her as well.
Mm.
So, yeah, a lot of the initial treatment, uh, yeah, I was going for most of it.
Mm.
Surgery, the radiation therapy, all of that. And radiation is probably the more intense part, even though it doesn't come across as intense because you need to make daily trips to the hospital, exhausting. which is also, yeah, when you get exposed to what healthcare looks like for everyone, because that's when you get to
Mm,
see a whole lot of people. So yeah, it was a fairly intense experience. I think it also makes you realize that you kind of have it easy because you see how bad
mm,
some of the other patients are. So
mm,
you just end up being very grateful and thankful that it's only this bad. Uh,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So as you look back, I'm so glad to hear that she's doing better and that despite the ups and downs, and I'm sure we will talk about what followed and what
Mhm.
that means. But introduce us to the 21-year-old and what was going on physically, emotionally, mentally.
That's such an interesting question. Because I don't think I recognize myself in the 21-year-old. I think I'm trying now um, to be a little bit of that person because once this happens, you suddenly grow up too soon. You don't realize what's happening because you stop being 21. Everyone's out there partying, focusing on their careers, um, on their relationships, and none of those are even options for you. Like they stop being options. So it was primarily like what care and support does my mom need is what was on my mind for the most part. Um, it also got hard because you don't have people who can relate to what you're going through, who'll be able to support you. So, and as much as I had great friends, I
Mm,
did not feel comfortable talking about this to anyone, just because all you're gonna get is pity and not support, and did not want that. That's another dimension I didn't want to have to deal with.
mm,
So I think for the first time, I know I've been fairly ambitious all my life. I've
mm,
always wanted to do a lot of things. And what I've wanted to has changed over time. And this entire diagnosis definitely changed that trajectory for me as well. I thought I was going to be in finance, uh, but clearly not. But I think I was just a lot more easygoing. I wore my heart on my sleeve. Uh, it was definitely a lot more fun. Definitely a lot more fun. I think I take life way too seriously now. Uh,
mm.
we're just I've made peace with the fact that it tends to happen, and the more time you
Yeah.
spend in these as a caregiver, one, but also two, the career choices I've made. I work in social impact. All of those things tend to push you towards the more serious side. Yeah. So if I had to talk about the 21-year-old, I'm not sure if I will do it justice or if I'm even able to I'm not sure if I'm able to recall correctly as well.
Mm,
But yeah, a lot more fun, a lot more laid back. I don't think I took anything in life seriously
mm.
because I don't think any 21-year-old should. It's that time in life where you explore things, figure things out, have fun,
Yeah.
do stupid mistakes because it's not going to be the end of the world. I can't make the same mistakes I would make as 20 at 21 because too late to change track at this point, right? Like you can't correct course. You mean you can, but it just
I'm
you
not
can.
not there with you on that, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, you can correct course. It just feels like what if it takes you 5 years to correct course in your 20s? I'm not sure I want to be correcting course for 5 years in my 30s. It's a choice, I think. It's
Sure.
yeah. But yeah, so a lot more fun, but I think the last 2, 3 years I've been surrounding myself with people who have been bringing out the more fun side in me, the lighter
Mm,
side in me. I was in the US for 2 years doing my master's. I think being away from this entire environment also really helped bring
sure.
out the inner child in me, and so it was a good time. I think that period allowed me to relax a little bit, loosen a little bit, and focus on myself.
Yeah.
A lot of guilt came with that. The entire process
Hmm.
was also riddled
Yeah,
with,
sure.
like, the entire time was also riddled with guilt, but it's a
Yeah.
lot better now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doing anything for yourself as a caregiver almost feels like as if, it must be accompanied with a wagon load of guilt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How
all the
can you?
time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm going to stick with the 21-year-old for now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For the simple reason that, but for a few things, everything that you said could have been my story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you? You said you were a teenager.
Yeah. But I think I was 17,
Hmm.
thereabouts, when the early issues started coming in. And my dad's illness was undiagnosed for a very long period of time. And then I was 20 when I had gone for my post-graduation. And um, that's when it started intensifying. And I think my parents had a diagnosis and they didn't tell us, me and my brother. So we were students and we knew something was wrong. We knew there was something going on. But I think they also couldn't wrap their heads around, what is this shy dragger syndrome, which was so rare. It's now referred to as multiple system atrophy. Nobody had heard that name. We didn't know why, and we didn't know how, and we didn't know,
Yeah.
why him. So I think, to be fair, perhaps they were trying to protect us, or they were in denial, or whatever. So we didn't really have the full picture. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then around the time that I was 2021, I can relate with everything. Like, I know there's something wrong at home. I know my dad is unwell, but I don't know who to talk to and how. And even if I did talk to my friends, they had other priorities. And I didn't know who would relate with me. And I didn't know, even if they did relate with me, which level was that at? Was it really compassion and was it really empathy or was it really sympathy and pity? And, whether I wanted that or didn't want that. So there was that struggle for peerage. Uh, and I say this that that's the whole point of Saathi, that you need a Saathi, you need a friend, you need somebody who can hold your hand and have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think the harder part for me, and I don't know how this was for you, was the inability to even have the conversations with people at home. I think that
yeah,
was one part, the inability to have a conversation with your family members because each
yeah,
of them is processing it differently in their own ways. And it feels like I'm invading into their thoughts, and I didn't want to be doing that. It just felt
yeah,
too. Also, at 21, you are not uh, aware of how these things work, like how people think, uh, how much you can pry and prod and expect people to be vulnerable. Like, so it was also very
yeah,
tricky to have conversations at home. I mean, I've seen
yeah,
them cry openly, but when you see them cry, it makes it harder because it's just like, do you want to have conversations with someone who's already this
yeah,
emotional?
yeah,
And put salt on their wound. Uh,
yeah,
so that's like one side, the people who are aware of it and the inability to have conversations with them. And the other side of it is people who are unaware of it, but who might be able to empathize with you because they're of your same age, going through the same experiences. Uh,
yeah.
that's also that's tricky in a different way. Like, how do
Hmm.
you explain this? How do you explain the choices you're making? How do you
Yeah.
explain that you're choosing to take time off? Are you going to get judged for putting your career on hold? Uh, because as a 21-year-old, that's what your biggest fear is. I don't have a job. Also, like, let's also consider the whole identity, uh,
Yeah.
the multiple identities you carry, right? As a Muslim woman, I like for me, I'm just like, are people going to assume that because I'm a 21-year-old woman from a certain community, are they going to assume I'm just not going to work and I'm going to get married? Like, that was another fear. I'm just like, I don't want someone to view me from that angle because clearly not that person.
Yeah.
But that I think the identities you carry also play a role in how you
For
want to show
sure.
up in society, the kind of conversations you can have.
Yeah.
So it was definitely very tricky to have that conversation. I did make some friends in from life and other spaces at that point because I was volunteering, and they've turned out to be some of the most uh, amazing people I've met. It
Mm.
was not out of choice. These people who just came into my life at that point. One of
Mm.
them married my best friend. Uh,
Mm.
because when I met him, I was just like, yeah, this man is great. Like one of the few people that I could
Mm.
talk about emotions to. And I'd known him for
Mm.
what, maybe a few weeks, which makes it surprising, right? Sometimes the people but also it's easier to talk to someone you've known for a lesser
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, well, I don't care if this man is going to judge me for it
Yeah.
because um, he's not that important to me yet. So it can go in any direction. This relationship can end, and I'm fine with it. So it felt
Yeah.
easier to I guess have a
Yeah.
conversation with him, and the kind of support and how much this man held me in my space with my emotions. I was like, yeah, this guy is great. And I remember my best friend was looking for a partner. I was just like, here's one for you. Uh, we got it's
How
their second,
interesting.
yeah, it's their second wedding anniversary tomorrow as well.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
yeah, so and there have been few others who not very explicit in terms of the kind of emotional support, but making me feel like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old by just like making sure I was being dragged to lunches, dinners, for movies. They were like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm coming and picking you up and dropping you back home.
Yeah.
And with no thought for how I used to live outside the city at that point. It was an hour-long commute each way.
Wow.
And the kind
Mm.
of effort that some of these people would put in, which was like, I'm coming because you need this time off. And I think all of them showed up in different ways. It was
Mm.
not the kind of support that you kind of envision as what you need, someone to talk about these two, but people showed up in so many different ways, making sure
Yeah.
you were at least having some semblance of a life of a 21-year-old. I think that
Yeah.
also really helped, besides the whole, I mean, that meant that I was not processing my emotions and doing things like my life was fairly normal.
Yeah.
So the emotions were bottled for a couple of years, but
Yeah.
I was looked after fairly well by two people I just met. So that was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
I, I'm also reminded of a few of my friends, but I would have asked you, like in your journey,
Hmm.
who were the support system, right? Who were the friends really? They may not have done everything that you needed, but they
Yeah.
definitely like extended themselves. So thank
Yeah.
you. And grateful for the fact that you had that support for sure.
Yeah.
But
I think
as
also
this
moving to the
21,
U. Sorry, please.
no, what did you say?
No, no, I said I think it's also different kind of dynamic when you are far away from home and still stressing out over this. That's a
Yeah,
different kind of emotional support you need. And
yeah,
yeah, the people who show up, that's the worst part. It's not even being close by and needing that support when you're a caregiver doing things. But when you're a
mm,
caregiver that is not doing things, but your mind is constantly wired towards what's happening at home, but you are the closest trip home is a 24-hour flight, is a 24-hour journey, is your fastest way home. I think that kind of anxiety is insane and
killer, right?
yeah, is crazy.
So,
And
so it's very fascinating how you just described this because a large number of people would not call themselves caregivers if They are long distance caregivers. And we have to constantly, explain to people that being a caregiver doesn't mean that you are actually doing the feeding and the cleaning and
Yeah.
the medication only. That is one form of caregiving. But there is the intellectual, mental stress of being a long distance caregiver. And these terms are not there in our vocabulary. And just like 10 years ago, I don't think mental health and language in general in the environment was not as high. For sure, it was not that high 30 years ago when I'm talking about my times. But um, but um, I also take your point that it's even in this environment, not every 20, 21-year-old will have access to that language and that expression. Even if you had that language, you might not have the skills to express and process well. Uh,
Yeah.
but the 20s are a decade for conventionally some other things. And and you and I have spent some time doing different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as you today reflect back on that journey through the 20s,
Mhm.
what do you wish you had?
I think what you just mentioned, right? Having the vocabulary and the skills to
Mm,
express
mm,
um, the vocabulary and your emotions, a
mm,
little bit of that would have been definitely helpful because I have the vocabulary now. I didn't have it 10 years
mm.
ago.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think until my mid 20s I would have ever referred to myself as a caregiver. Um,
Mm,
but there are pros and cons to it. Not having the
yes.
vocabulary, not having the skill means
Mm,
that you don't overthink all the things that you do.
yes.
So, yes,
Yes.
I was hyper aware of the decisions I was making, um,
Mm,
and how it was going to impact my ability to continue the care work. It was, I was always questioning how far away from home I was going to be. Like those things
mm,
existed, but not so much to a point when you start identifying as a caregiver, and that
mm,
becomes an identity and like an identity marker and a label.
mm,
When that happens, it intensifies what you feel maybe as duty, the intensity of how you want to show up. Because now
mm,
that you have a name for it, you expect yourself to be a bit more perfect in every single time you show up. So, like, I can't call myself a caregiver and not think about how my actions are going to impact my family. But prior to that, it was subconscious. It was
mm,
not, it was not conscious choices. Like, so now
mm,
when I took up my job, they gave me an option of 5 different cities, and I chose Chennai just because it was home and it was easy to. I'd never
mm,
even thought about the other cities as an option. But if you'd asked me after I had fully processed this, you would have been very more intentional about no, not because this is home, but because this is what is allows me to continue the care work. Or applying to the US, going for my master's, it should have been something that was exciting. It was something I was looking forward to. It was a dream of mine. Like I'd gotten
mm,
to my dream university, something I'd wanted to do since I was in high school. Uh, got accepted when I was 26. And I remember 25, 20, yeah, 26. And I remember when I went, like when I got my visa stamped and I was ready to go, my first feeling as soon as the visa was stamped was just like, holy shit, I'm going to be far away from home. And it was
mm,
so destabilizing and crippling.
Yeah.
It didn't feel exciting. Like the entire
Yeah.
journey that should have been joyous and
Hmm.
celebratory felt like a uh,
Burden.
burden. Yeah, it felt terrifying, and I was like, "Do I want?" I remember I had to have way too many therapy sessions. My therapist was on speed dial for months until I left to the US because he was scared. He was like, "I thought you were making progress, and suddenly all of this is making you spiral again." But yeah, I mean, we also established the fact that growth and progress is not linear. But I think
Hmm.
my therapist was so concerned
Hmm.
just how much I was spiraling. Yeah, I think yes, I didn't have the vocabulary in my early 20s, which I found, explored, and identified in my mid 20s. And each of them have their own challenges, pros, cons. Having the having these identities, having the vocabulary helps you make sense of what you're doing, process what you're doing, seek help, talk about it better. And so it allows you to process emotions that you've bottled for a really long time, but it
Yeah.
also makes those emotions a lot more intense. When you're unaware, I think ignorance is bliss, right? So there's also a
100%.
bit of, yeah, so there's also a little bit of that. Uh, yeah. And so the more I sit with it, I think in my early 20s, there was a lot of guilt. In my mid 20s, it was also a lot of guilt. In my late 20s, it was a lot of resentment. Um, it's one of those emotions that we don't acknowledge because it comes across as it just has a very negative connotation to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is what it
But
is, right?
yeah, I'd like to talk about the resentment piece, but before that, um, I I found it very interesting that you talk about it like identities. One of the things that
Mm.
we speak about among caregivers is that being a caregiver is both an identity and a role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And till as long as it's an identity, whether it is conscious or not, you tend to do a bunch of things because that's who you are. That's your identity. So you do them out of duty or love, or that's how you see yourself. But when you see it as a role, then it is one of the many roles that I'm playing. And
Does that
then
make it
it's
easier?
not just who I am. Sorry?
Does that make it easier when
Yeah.
you view it as a
So
role?
the imagination is that if it is a role that I'm playing for now, the self is different from this particular role. I step into that role.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm in that role, I can seek help. I can have a support system. I don't have to do it alone. Uh, and then I can step out of it. It's very hard to step out of an identity.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And the whole leadership thing you're talking about, I see that in play right now.
Yeah,
Because I did learn a lot about, I mean, I did mention that I do leadership development as well.
yeah,
And it's easier to talk about these concepts as abstracts when you're working with people and teaching them
yeah,
things.
yeah,
But also it's fairly easy to do these things when you're in professional spaces. It's just
yeah,
when these things seep into your uh,
yeah,
personal life and your day to day
yeah,
and how you show up every single morning, it
yeah.
becomes harder to like. I am aware of these things. I know these things. Can I implement
Mm,
them? No, I cannot. And not that I can't, but I think I'm at a point where I'm. It's challenging to implement these things, no matter how much you know them.
that
And
is true.
so it's very helpful to hear that seeing it as a role allows you to step out of it. Because one of the things my professor was talk about is he talks about identities as things we hold,
Yeah.
not as not as things that we are, but things that we
Mm,
carry. And so he's like, if it's something you carry, think of it like as a pail of water and you put it
Yeah.
down when you can't
Yeah.
carry it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he sees identities as also as things that you can choose to carry at some point,
That's right.
like a hat
That's
you
right.
wear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's an interesting way and definitely something I will think about later today.
Yeah, and I also think that the idea of identity, for example, initially is a monolith. It's only over time and with awareness you are in touch with the multitude of identities that you carry,
Yeah.
and the fact that, you would choose to channel one at a point in time. So right now I'm channeling this identity, but not that the others are not there. They're very much there, but they're in the background and in the
Yeah.
foreground in a very gestalty way. This is what is at play, right?
Mhm.
But that's the game of high order of self-awareness and
Mhm.
a better understanding. And of course, so
Mhm.
um, mm, you're right. You may know these concepts, you may be well versed with them professionally, but in your journey and in your emotional space, in the grip of your emotions, uh, cognition can go fly a kite, right? Um,
Yeah.
so this is a conversation that can go on and can take many dimensions, but I'd like for us to contain it to some extent.
Mhm.
And what I'd like for you to reflect on is, as you look at yourself as perhaps one of the experienced caregivers,
Mhm.
what would you tell someone who was new to the journey? What would be some reflections and lessons that you would want somebody to learn from?
That's interesting. What would I want?
Interesting how.
I think the kind of advice I would have given at different points in my life
Mm.
would have looked different,
Mm.
and the kind of emotion that maybe grounds me off in that particular day will also make me want to give different advice.
Mm.
Um, like on days when the resentment is rather high, I would say look out for yourself. Uh,
Mm.
on days when guilt is high, I would say do the best you can and find ways to do better. So I think it's also what is the emotion that is heightened in that
Nice.
particular day. Definitely
Very nice.
does influence what I will tell someone. But if I have to sort of step back and think about it, um, I think I would tell anyone or even my younger self to be comfortable seeking help very early on.
Mm.
When I say help, I don't mean not necessarily therapy and
Mm.
psychiatric help, but
Mm.
seek help from the people around you. Be comfortable leaning on people, especially if your circle, your inner circle is people you've chosen, people who love you and care about you. They're going to be a lot more uh, supportive and empathetic than you think they will be. So yeah, lean on people is going to be the first thing. Number two would be don't postpone your life just because someone else needs your support. Find ways to do both simultaneously, and that's a lot. I mean, I know I'm asking for a lot from my younger self, and now I know that was a lot trying to balance a career and a full-time
Yeah.
career and full-time caregiving takes its toll on you. But I also think that it doesn't have to be when I say don't postpone your life, I don't necessarily mean in terms of your career, at least in ways that you can look out for yourself. If for someone looking out for themselves means not working and staying at home and recharging their batteries, it works for them. If for
Yeah.
someone else it means going to work and trying to balance these things, but also taking a holiday every 6 months for 2 weeks where they fully disconnect from all of their uh, all the roles that they play, I think that might help as well. I think for me, that's where I'm at now, is that I know I can balance both. I mean, it's also 10 years, right? So I can balance both now. Uh,
Mm.
Not very effective. Sometimes I fail at one or the other. I fail at sometimes living my life, sometimes I fail as a caregiver. And yeah, maybe that's going to be point three, but I'll come back to that. Is I can do both, but I will need every 6 months, I'm going to need 2 weeks off, just alone, away by myself, where I'm not talking to anyone, fully disconnecting from all the roles I play. So, yeah, whatever it means to not stop living your life, uh, not postponing your own needs, however that looks like, in whatever different ways it works for you. And the third is going to be you are going to feel like you're failing at least one part of your life. Uh, Make peace with it. Uh, some days you're going to be failing.
Acceptance.
Yeah, accept it. And we all fail in different parts of our life. Even when we're not balancing two things, we all fail in different things that we do. We've all failed at relationships, with certain relationships. We've all failed in certain parts of our career.
Yeah,
We've all had friendships that have failed, and I think it's fine. Like, it's okay to fail as a daughter. It's okay to fail as a parent, uh, or a partner. Where whatever
yeah.
you're doing, it's okay.
What is success and failure really?
Yeah, yeah. It and if and I know there are days when my parents are gonna straight up like, despite everything, they're still not gonna be happy with some of the things I'm gonna do. It's I've made peace with it. I'm gonna disappoint them. I'm gonna disappoint them. Like, I
Yeah,
think the more I've made peace with the fact that I'm gonna disappoint them, I'm more comfortable doing what I want to do despite the disappointment I'm causing other people. So yeah,
for
just
sure.
disappoint yourself, others, but do what brings you joy at every point in time. And all of this, the challenges and the grief that comes with caregiving does not mean your other emotions can't exist, that other parts of your life can't coexist. Feel like joy and grief can coexist at the same time. And
Right.
so trying to find ways, trying to make peace for joy. Like my family currently is doing this weird thing that I am not participating in, but it works for them. They spend 30 minutes watching something together every night, and I'm like, great, if you want to do, go ahead, do it. I don't want to be a part of it because it's not going to add any value to me. But I know my sister loves being a part of it. So my mom, dad, and sister sit and watch TV together for 30 minutes. We are not a family that watches TV. We have not watched TV since I was in the 12th grade. It's something they picked up in the last 2 weeks, but they seem to look forward to it every night. So I'm like, yeah, cool. Uh, so it's small things like that. It's not a big
Yeah,
thing. So whatever works for people, but make time for joy.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, yeah. So well said. Um, I was also deeply resonating with that piece that you spoke about, saying um, sometimes it can be difficult to engage with family members because everybody is managing and managing themselves and processing information in their own way.
Yeah.
And I've often looked back at my experience and said everybody was trying to be protective of everyone else and trying to, take on the stuff themselves and thinking that
Yeah.
I'm protecting the others. But it was
Yeah.
everybody trying to be doing the same thing. And in the
Yeah.
process, not necessarily really doing a good job. But that's how families are, right?
Yeah. Desi
Uh,
family.
yeah, we like to believe that we are all protectors,
Yeah.
and and not really have the open conversations. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's not really how it should work. Um,
I think that it could be a point I might add as well. Have conversations. Have open
Mm,
conversations might be the fourth point I would add. Because if we can't communicate what our needs are,
yeah,
uh, and what our boundaries are, I think that's when the resentment starts to build.
yeah,
And yeah, I think it's always best to make sure that the resentment doesn't build instead of trying to solve for it once it happens. And so I
yeah,
think what you just spoke about, having those conversations, yeah, will definitely is more preventive and more
yeah.
important. Yeah,
But I think it's resentments and regrets, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Sometimes some conversations are really difficult, crucial, and and pertinent, and yet they don't happen. And
yeah,
because they don't happen, they leave residue of regret or resentment,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and and that's not worth it. So
yeah.
um, as you move into the next decade of your life,
Hmm.
what are your dreams and wishes for yourself?
Oh, that's kind of tough. Ah, also important for me to
At this
think about.
point in time, let me just narrow it down.
Hmm. At this point in time, I think I want to have a better relationship with my family because after a
Mhm.
decade, it definitely has taken its toll. So maybe
Mm.
having a better relationship with them, which can mean that I ignore a lot of their criticisms. I mean, I've ignored their
Yeah.
advices for years. I'm sure I can ignore criticism now. It's that
Mm.
phase of my life. So,
Mm.
better relationship with my parents, build a community for myself here in the
Mm.
UAE because I don't
Mm.
have that.
Mm.
And I do have some friends, but it's not the kind of community that I had in Boston or in Chennai. So maybe trying to
Mm.
build a little bit of that, focus on my physical well-being. I run. I yeah, I was supposed to run my first full marathon 2 years ago. No, wait,
Oh, wow.
exactly a year ago. And I injured myself 4 weeks before the race.
Ah,
But I think taking care of your physical well-being and prioritizing that also brings in a certain level of discipline that is very helpful in getting through life, especially when it gets
that is true.
challenging. So I remember that point being that I was turning 30. So it was for me, the entire point of running that race was I go into my 30s feeling the best version of myself
Yeah.
physically and emotionally because running a full marathon is not just
Oh,
a
yeah.
physical feat, it's more of an emotion because you're feeling hungry halfway through your
Mental
body. Yeah,
endurance.
it's a lot of mental endurance. And so I think for me it was the entire point of training was building that endurance, physical and mental,
Mm.
and and that discipline that continues for the rest of the decade. Because once you're able
Mm.
to build endurance and discipline, I think you can get through kind of anything in life. Discipline is, yeah, incredibly important. But yes, those three things. And the fourth one would be have fun. Uh, be as unhinged as you want to be. Find people you can be unhinged with and have fun. I think I am trying to be. I think since the beginning of this year, I have felt a lot lighter. The whole taking 2 weeks away from family and coming back has definitely helped with just like settling my nerves a little bit. Starting a new job has helped a little bit. So, yeah, I think all of that, but broadly, I think I might just want stability, good health, and joy, and just lots of joy. And yeah, will be those three.
And while this conversation is definitely going to be valuable and useful for many of our, uh, people who listen to these conversations in their own time, um, what would you wish for an organization like Caregiver Saathi?
Hmm. Um, this is gonna sound weird, Um, I know fully how impactful an organization like this is, but I would want to see a point in time where we don't have to have these organizations. Uh, yeah,
I
because
agree.
I've been thinking
It's
about this
not
thing.
weird. You
Okay.
spoke, you made my heart sing.
So I just, because I know how important this is to you, but also think about when I see individuals do the work, it makes it, I don't know, it makes me feel weird. Not weird, it just annoys me, it irritates me. I mean, especially it's another woman doing it. It's always us. It's more labor after labor after labor. Like, why? It's supposed to be government's work. It's supposed to be society as a whole collectively doing it. But you are doing it instead. And so for me, I know how important this is to you, but I would rather you use this time for just your own personal well-being, on focusing on yourself instead of trying to support other people. And that's not because I don't want other people to feel supported, just broadly because yeah, our government and governments in general need to pick it up. And I guess that was something I really was looking forward to this conversation, was just how systemically we can transform these things. And there are two, maybe three things I've been thinking a lot about. One is when Zoran Mamdani won the elections, one of his primary things was free care work, is providing free care for parents, and just
Yeah,
how much that transforms society economically and socially,
yeah,
how much it develops people.
yeah,
Uh, so free childcare is phenomenal, but and that's definitely one way forward. But also overall care. So Zoran's is just one. New York could be just one good example. But the second one I've been reading a lot about this entire year has been, maybe not reading as much as I should, is been about how there are so many cities across the world that are picking up care work because they are realizing how much um, individual labor is going into it. And so Bogota in Colombia has
yeah,
this model called care blocks and care buses,
yeah,
which I think is phenomenal, and people should read
yeah,
about it and learn about it, and maybe try and replicate it in our cities in India.
yeah.
And I've been also talking to a few government officials, and I'm like, hey, is this doable for us?
Hmm.
Because I realize a lot of the projects that I want to do are ones that can only be implemented by governments.
Yeah,
And they should be doing it because I should be living my life out there, having fun while the government does its job. Uh, but yeah, Bogota's
yeah,
care block models is phenomenal. They're trying to
yeah,
convert where
it
within
is.
800 meters, providing care for people who require the care and also providing
Yeah,
support for caregivers. Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's a very cool model, and there's more we can learn from it. If not replicate it, at least a different variation of it. So yeah, as much as I love the work that you do, my dream is for
but you read my vision. You made my heart sing. I really wish that we didn't need an organization like Caregiver Saathi, and that this system had the ability to provide, to constantly look at itself and say what it's not being served,
yeah,
and can we have a way of changing the system
yeah,
so that that which is invisible
hmm,
but is impacting the system is addressed.
yeah, yeah.
And that's for a
That's
longer conversation, maybe
yeah,
in another format
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
we talk about systemic change. And that's our conversation around future fit corporates, or another
Yes,
format,
yes,
which we should pick up.
yes. I would love to because that is yeah. I think
But
too
you
much
did
about
make
that.
my heart sing, and it wasn't weird at all.
Okay, okay. I'm glad because I wasn't sure how to say that without. Uh,
No.
yeah.
I'm a teacher's daughter,
Hmm.
and a good teacher is one who makes herself redundant.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah.
And a good social development organization is one that doesn't scale but makes itself
Yes.
redundant.
I think I will take that quote and share it with everyone in the social development space that I work at
Oh my
because everyone's
God.
focused
Yeah.
on scale. Um,
Yeah.
like,
I
why?
had that conversation recently saying, like, when will you know you're successful? When you have given, today you're giving 1 million free meals and tomorrow you will give 2 million free meals?
I don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, every social change initiative's goal has to be to become redundant over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
What a lovely conversation, Najwa.
Yeah.
And with a promise for one more conversation at
Yeah.
the systemic level.
Yes.
I am
Yes.
grateful for your time. I'm grateful for this conversation. And thank you for being the gentle warrior that you are.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this for as long as I guess it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Bye bye.
Let's keep celebrating the unseen strength of gentle warriors who are all around us and yet are the invisible backbone. Thank you for watching this episode of Conversations with Gentle Warriors. Caregiving may be unseen, but it is a powerful force holding lives together. If you're a caregiver, a carer, or someone who may not have thought of themselves as a caregiver, but you are worried and concerned about someone's well being, know that you are not alone. And if you're listening as an ally, think about how you can help make caregiving more visible, valued, and supported. Do like, subscribe, and share with people who might be able to relate, who might be able to find inspiration and find connection, because care is all around us and caregivers are all around us.